The Handyman Pros have a conversation with Ed Padillia, the founder of the Association of Certified Handyman Professionals. Stay tuned for a fantastic interview. Welcome to the Handyman Pros radio show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros. Thanks for listening to another edition of the Handyman Pros radio show, where our goal is to help save you time, money, and aggravation. This edition's entitled A Conversation with Ed Padillia, the founder of the Association of Handyman Professionals. To help me explain, I'm here with my ever-cheerful co-host and old buddy, John. John, what has been happening this week?
Well, I've been ever cheerful. And
it's tough lately.
Yes, it is. This week I was putting in some outdoor lighting for a neighbor of mine, and some of those low voltage lights, and that I was replacing a bunch of them for him, and a couple of other things. It was small things, and it got me thinking about hiring a handyman. And what a handyman, what we've been doing, so these smaller jobs, some more comprehensive and complex jobs, but mainly, these smaller ones that homeowners want. So, I think this kind of goes into the interview that we're going to have with Ed here.
Yeah. I when I started Handyman Services by Service Group International, there's that shameless plug for if you're in the North Atlanta area, John, and I would love to earn your business. It's Handyman Services by Service Group International, hssgi.com. I really felt it was imperative to be a part of a national organization or two, and so I did some searches and I found the Association of Certified Handyman Professionals, and I was really impressed with what they did. And it's a long story, but Ed's going to get into that stuff. We've just always found, it to be a really good thing to be a member. So we called Ed up, and Ed decided to come on. And so we had a great conversation, and here it is. We're here with Ed Padillia, founder of the Association of Certified Handyman Professionals. Welcome, Ed.
Welcome, Ed. It's John.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Well, we thought we'd start off with a question. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got into the business?
Well, my background is technology. I've been in technology for many years, and I decided to leave the corporate world and start being a handyman, and decided early on that we needed a voice. We needed an association. And that's basically how AHCP started. It's a handyman association for handymen by handymen. So, that's basically how we started. A little bit about me, but I've been doing this for quite some time, ever since I was a kid, and it's been fun. I love tinkering and fixing things, installing things, and and I'm also a farmer.
Ooh, that's exciting.
Oh, there you go.
So tell us.
Plenty of things to work on around that place.
Yeah, I was going to say farming is a handyman type business. It's the way it goes. So.
Exactly. I mean, you have to be a handyman to be a farmer, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. So when we talked a little bit before the show, and one of the things that you had said was that you had found that you started the association because of the fact that you were actually talking to people, and they were saying that they got scammed by a handyman, or they did this, and you felt that it was important to put that kind of together as a group. Can you tell us a little bit about that process and just a little deeper dive into the founding of the AHCP?
Yeah, sure. I found when I left the corporate world, it was going to be very tough, almost impossible to do what I wanted to do, and that's have my own business and do handyman services. I was also a licensed home inspector as well, but after I left the corporate world. But I had been flipping houses during the time that I was working in technology. I'd buy a house and live in it and flip it and turn around and sell it. So I had a lot of experience there. But on my own, with my own business, I found very early on folks, giving me that hairy eyeball look, because they had been taken by a previous handyman or a contractor, and they just weren't finding the right folks. So I always had that look, and verbatim, everyone said the same thing. They said, we've been taken by a handyman or a contractor, and I says there's no way that I was going to survive doing what I'm doing. So I decided, and this started in 2006, and I decided that enough's enough. Let's start an association. At first, it was just a group where we can gather, so forth and so on. But it turned out to be an association for and by handymen, which turned out pretty good. It's a certification through an exam. We don't have classes because we feel that folks need the hands-on, and the best hands-on is either shadowing, someone, or doing it on your own. And you can't really teach that, in my opinion, but at least remotely. But we do have members across the country. We also have members in Canada and the UK. And I think we have one or two in South Africa as well. But yeah, that's how ACHP started, and it's been gradually growing. We grow organically. We don't like to advertise too much, although we wish we had more members. But we like we're gaining better folks that way, in my opinion.
So do you have a list of recommended practices for a handyman? Is there kind of like a set of best practices for handymen that the association espouses?
Yeah, we have a code of ethics that we want folks to follow, and a lot of them are just basic common sense type of things. Address folks as they should be addressed, and be respectful, be clean, and for Pete's sake, take a shower. I don't know who Pete is, but please, appearance works both ways too. I mean, but yeah, things like that. You're entering into someone's house, right? Mm-hmm. And I get a question, what constitutes a quality job or quality work? And it's hard to explain to folks that it's not just doing a great job, and walking out or repairing something. It's the customer. The customer has to feel happy that and satisfied with what you've done. But the common thing is it's not only doing a good job or being good at your craft. It's how you conduct yourself, how you carry yourself. You're a teacher. Be a teacher is a leader. A leader is a good listener. A good listener is someone who responds to their customers and not just reacts. So that sets you apart, in my opinion. Be professional. Become a home inspector. Because you don't want to inspect the house and then do the handyman work for them. That's a conflict of interest. Mm-hmm. But be a home inspector so that you can do the right thing. As a handyman, and vice versa. Those are some tips, I guess, as well, for some handymen listening out there. So I kind of went all over the place there, but I think you understand, where I'm going with this is, teach your customers.
Well, it's funny you say that, because both John and I do that, very often in our jobs because we both work as handymen. So we go out into the field, and you say be a home inspector, and it's really it's interesting. It's not that we're doing home inspections per se, but we walk in. I know I have. I just did a job yesterday where I walked into this person's home, and as I walked in, they had a deck out over their house, and as I walked in, the deck actually sagged. I mean, it did more than sag. It moved like vertically up and down. And long story short, a tree had actually pulled the deck out off the house, and so we got in underneath the house and shored up the decking. We actually put a new beam in and did all that kind of thing. But it was the homeowner didn't even realize that it was a problem. And she just said, yeah, well, there's a little bounce in the deck. And I get up underneath it, and I mean, it's literally unattached from the house. And I'm like, this thing is it was 2 joists away from collapsing, literally, not even figuratively, literally. And that came about because I did an inspection, and then I knew what I was looking at. This particular one was within my scope of work. You know, it was the kind of thing. I think that's a really interesting point. John, John does this too, but John, when you go into homes, like, you see other things, is that correct?
No, absolutely. And I think that's, Ed, to your point, you're bringing value to the homeowner. And you go above and beyond what, if you're just going in to fix a light switch or, putting in a new faucet or whatever it might be, you take a look around and add value. You walk up to the house and you say, hey, there's some, you've got some wood rot over here. It's not necessarily that I'm looking for the work, but there might be, when we talked about, partnering up with contractors and things like that, there might be some concrete that's sagging, that's a trip hazard, or just bring that kind of value and let them know things that they really aren't aware of, like Larry's story just now.
Yeah, very good. Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, if you teach your customer, they're going to love you. They're not going to forget you. They're going to call you next time, and be clean too. As a handyman,
yeah.
Not just take a shower, but leave the place better than when you found it.
Absolutely,
someone's home.
Absolutely, and that's one of the things that Larry and I are both big on, is that we want to clean up. And because everybody's had the experience, right, that you might have had some contractors over or somebody over, and there's like, they're working outside, and there's water bottles that they've left, around the place, and it's like, what's going on here, right? So,
or you're inside, they cut drywall,
yeah.
They leave the dust on the floor, they don't vacuum, they don't, they just leave
exactly.
They track mud in their shoes, they blah blah blah. Like there's a million stories, and it seems so common sense, and yet at the other side, it's not. So that's. You as the ACHP has this kind of code of conduct and code of ethics, so that would be one of the benefits of using a handyman that's a member. Would you agree with that?
Oh, definitely. ACHP stands for Association of Certified Handyman Professionals, and that's what we want. We want professionals. We want guys who are buyers, not renters. Guys who are doing this as a not just to make beer money for the weekend, and definitely not fly by nights. We don't want to attract those types of folks. We want that's why we organically grow ACHP. We want guys who are in it as a as something they love to do, and people that love their jobs or love what they do. You see it. The outcome of what you'll get a quality job if you find someone who loves doing what they do, and those are the folks we want. We want the guys that have the passion to do to at the end of the day walk away and say, you know what, I've accomplished something very good today, and feel good about what they've done. Not the guy that's running from house to house trying to make that quota for the week, which is fine and good, but there's a little bit more to just making money, in my opinion.
Agreed. Well put.
So, what kind of feedback and questions do you get from your members?
It's very. I always get, what can I do, or what can I do as a handyman?
Mm-hmm.
And I always tell folks it's a gray area. Do the things that A, are safe, and B, that you're licensed to do. Well, I don't have a license to do roofing. Well, don't do roofing. You know, those types of things. Can I do drywall? You can, but check with your local municipality type of areas. With you, call your building department. Most of the time, you're going to get negative feedback from your county because they're pushing for the contractor, because that's where the money's at. But do things that you know, if you're going to do the minor work, which I strongly recommend a handyman does, then do that. Don't advertise yourself as as doing plumbing when all you really are qualified to do is put in a faucet. That type of thing. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Ed.
I was going to say, those two areas. What can I do? What can I do? And another area is do I need a handyman license? A handyman license. Well, from my understanding, I may have something new may have come out, but I don't know of any handyman license that's out there. I know there's contractor licenses, but I may be wrong. But I've never come across a handyman license per se. You are allowed to do handyman type work, but always check with your local places. And and again, most of those places are going to say you can't turn a light bulb because they're pushing for possibly for contractors. But I think handyman is going to the term handyman is going to be around for a long time because folks don't want to pay $150 for a toilet seat when they could pay someone $25 to put in a toilet seat.
Yeah,
per se.
absolutely.
Yeah, that's right. And there's so much, there's so much variety in terms of what the laws are across all the states as I've seen. But the commonality of everything is that the handyman is kind of, I kind of think of it, and I think Larry agrees, is that we kind of sit in between the homeowner, what they can do in most cases, and things that the contractors don't want to do. The jobs are too small.
Right.
They're like, well, if you come in and say, I just want, a backsplash in my kitchen or something, a tile contractor might say, no, I got big work to do, or something like that.
Yeah, or a plumber doesn't want to change a single faucet. I mean, they'll do it, but they're just going to charge you a minimum trip charge and all that kind of thing. And I always laugh. I tell everybody my biggest job, if I had to do it as one particular type, it's called the to-do list. Can you to-do this, and can you do this, that, and the next thing? And it's like, yeah, sure, I can change a fan and change a faucet and I don't know, any number of different things, but I generally, as I tell them, I don't do any code work. I don't do electric work per se. I'll change fixtures, but I don't run wire.
Right.
Things that would require a license, I don't do. But when it comes to base, but a fan and a bunch of, it always seems like whenever most of my jobs are a series of things that people want done, and it can be really comprehensive. I mean, it can be across the wall. It can be, I've got a little drywall patch that I need done that my kid, punched a hole through the wall or whatever. And then, while you're here, can you do this? And can you, it really runs the gamut. And it is, as John said, it's all the things that you, if you had to hire individual contractors for, you couldn't afford it. I mean, you just couldn't afford it. But to hire one handyman to come in to do all of these different jobs that are relatively simple, it's a fantastic opportunity, for us as handymen. That's kind of how I look at it. So
definitely, and other questions that we get is how do I get insurance?
Oh, you have an answer to that one.
Oh yeah. We offer a group insurance over at ACHP. Just check out our website, go to handymanassociation.org, and just click on Handyman Insurance. It'll take you to the insurance page. You get a free quote, so forth and so on. Shameless plug.
It's okay.
But you know, a lot of handymen, going back to the question, a lot of handymen, they need reassurance. They need to make sure, because a lot of them feel like they're walking on eggshells. They feel like there's a watchdog group, and there is watchdog groups out there protecting their quote unquote own interests. And unfortunately, it's almost become like a cult, you know. And I mentioned to our previous conversation about the soldiers surrounding their enemy. Well, you know, if you shoot your enemy, you're going to shoot your compadre, your comrade, you know, on
the other side of the circle. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what I see happening a lot. And I think if we can bring in more relationship building and listen to each other, I think you'll see that we, meaning the handyman, can pass off the larger jobs, the jobs that do require a license, and vice versa, just to keep your base, your network happy and satisfied with your work. That's how it should work. I mean, but
absolutely, and that's kind of when we were talking earlier, is that Larry and I both have friends in the our association of plumbers and master electricians and things like that we call in big jobs. I've been in places where people wanted 10 pot lights put up in a new room. Can I do that? Absolutely. Am I going to do it? No, because that's not that's going to take a licensed electrician to do that. And I just call up my buddy and say, here's a job for you, and then they will reciprocate.
Yeah, and we kind of laugh. We like, neither John and I do. We'll call it excessive heights, and so roofing is kind of
right.
Roofing and tree work is off the table excessive roofing. If it's higher than a single story, generally, it depends on the pitch and stuff like that, but I'm generally not your guy, right? My days of climbing on high roofs with steep pitches are long since gone. When I was 25, maybe, but I am no longer 25. So we actually have resources for both of those. And my tree guy is outstanding, and a tree guy for sure. That's a whole separate thing. But I get a lot of people asking me about tree business, and I've done it when I was young, I did it, but I won't do it now. It's just too fraught with potential issues,
liabilities.
But I have a great guy that does it. So we've built networks, and to your point, Ed, you have to have that network, and you have to have it to put together in a good way, because we as handymen, we try to bring value where we can bring value, and part of that value that we bring, I know that John and I bring, is that it's like, oh well, we can't do that, but call our man. He can do this, and and we know the kind of work that he does. And so basically, if you look at it this way, if you're using us, the quality is going to be similar with the guy that we're recommending. It's just kind of the way we work on it. So our goal is to help our listeners save time, money, and aggravation. We are doing a series on hiring contractors. Do you have any tips for hiring a handyman or a contractor? Are there any red flags to look for and things like that? What sort of tips do you have for hiring contractors?
Well, when you say hiring contractor, you're talking about a customer who's looking to have contractor work at their home, correct?
Oh, contractor or a handyman. Do you have any tips for hiring a handyman, as far as this? They need to be a member of the AHCP. We understand that.
Of course.
But wait, don't you have a list of of your members that are on your website? Just as a thought.
Yeah, exactly. We have a directory listing that folks can find a good professional handyman at. But as far as hiring a contractor or a handyman, as a customer, I think you need to prepare to be vetted as well as, while you're vetting this person. Most good contractors and good handymen, they're going to measure you as a customer. They're going to see if you're just a price shopper or you're scamming. There are a lot out there. There are a lot of customers who have nothing better to do for whatever reason, and usually it's a okay, well, thanks for doing the job. See ya. You're not getting paid. That type of thing. Then you have to go through a mechanical lien, and when it's all said and done, you spend more to recoup. The list, the stories go on and on. But be safe. Be safe. Personally, I have turned down more jobs than I've taken on, just because you get that spidey sense, you get that tingle that says something ain't right here. Also, customers they won't secure a pet. It works both ways, I guess. As a hiring customer, looking for a handyman versus someone who you're asking into their home. So it works both ways. Be ready to get vetted while you're vetting. Ask for insurance. Ask for insurance. If you're hiring a handyman, someone to enter into your home, you live there, you sleep there, your family's there. Ask for insurance. Also, ask for referrals. Go to the Chatty Cathy over at the church and ask her. She'll know, someone probably that's a good handyman, or whatever. Ask a relative. Don't raise, or I should say, raise your own flag when you hear someone say, and this is more for handymen. This is a free estimate, right? If they keep repeating that, walk away. They're price shoppers. I call them price shopper Nazis. They're probably gonna scam you, or they're just looking for the very cheapest person that they can find. They're gonna find what they're looking for, and you'll probably get called back to fix what they paid for, possibly. Just be careful. Yeah, just be careful with those. But as far as a hiring customer, ask for affiliations, ask for certifications, memberships, what they're, if they have any community involvement, Chamber of Commerce. I mentioned church, or whatever, bingo club or whatever. Is that such a thing, a bingo club? Anyway.
Sounds good. If not, let's start one, right?
Yeah, not.
But of
I haven't been there
course,
lately.
but of course, ask them, and they don't have to be ACHP members, but that's what ACHP does. What we're doing is we're regulating ourselves. We're a bunch of handymen who are pros. I mentioned before, they're buyers, not renters. They're in it as a profession. They're professionals. If you don't call someone who's affiliated and has something to lose if they don't stay within a code of ethics, which every one of our members has to follow our code of ethics, and they even get tested on that. If you're hiring someone that doesn't have any code of ethics, you're just asking for trouble, in my opinion. Are there guys out there that don't have any affiliation or certifications that are good? Yeah, I would say so. There's some out there, but be careful. Be careful. And some folks might not like this, what I'm about to say about background checks, but do your own background checks. I know there are handymen out there who they have their own background checks and they've got something, a badge or whatever, which is fine and good. But the question, and I think customers are getting smart, and they're smart enough to say, wait a second, why is this guy doing his own background checks? Shouldn't I be doing my own background checks on this guy? Yeah, he hired a third party to do a background check for him. He paid that third party. So what am I getting? You know what I mean? Things like that. I know that's hairy in some areas for some folks, but it does become a conflict of interest, in my opinion. Now, I know there's good in background checks, so forth and so on, but as a customer, that's your home. Your family's there. Do your own background checks. Start off with a Google search. Start off with, has this guy or gal, have they been incarcerated? And not all people who were incarcerated are bad people. They may have just been at the wrong place at the wrong time, so forth and so on, or done something stupid when they were younger. But at least you want to know. Yeah. You want to know, and you don't want anyone else doing a background check for you. Do your own background checks.
Yeah, it's amazing what people put out on social media just alone. As everybody in our audience knows, I do rental properties, and we actually do a little bit of crawling on our potential tenants. Somebody says, this is just kind of a similar example, right? But somebody says, I don't have a pet. Yet you go on their Facebook page, and there they are sitting there with them, a picture posted 2 days ago, and they got a puppy in their arms, right? Yeah. And you're sitting there going, well, whose dog is that? And then they sit there and they go, and they write under the caption, just got my new dog, kind of thing. And it's like, yeah, okay, so somebody's not telling the truth. And even in this kind of thing, if you go out to search to social media and you search around or as you say, do a Google search, it is amazing the information that's just basically public knowledge that you can find out just an awful lot about the people that you're, as you say, bringing into your house. I do have that background check myself. I do it because some of my search places require it, but it gets into the depths of doing the credit checks and all that stuff, so people can see that. I'm not averse to giving that kind of information out. But to your point, I fully expect people to go take a look at me. I just hope in John's case, I hope they don't check the sexual No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
anyway, to your point, I think that's a great bit of advice for our listeners. Just do a rough background check. You don't have to get super in depth, but you go crawl Facebook and just for example, a guy smokes, and you say, it is no smoking in my house. Because you have to ask those things, right? So, those kinds of things.
Well, I think the other thing that's really helped out speed the process, you laid out a lot of steps there, but there's these, these applications like Nextdoor, things like that all these communities are on. And when they hand out referrals, you can go and talk to those people, you're recommending so-and-so, and then let me give you a call and talk to you about his work, who he is, those kind of things.
Yeah.
Larry and I were talking the other day, we both have our picture on our cards. So we always try to send a picture along before we even go out to the client. And also I always tell them, what kind of car I drive too, so that they know who's pulling up on their driveway. So
yeah, that's excellent. That's good. You want to build that relationship and and be straight up with folks. But yeah, there's nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with doing background checks for yourself. It's a seal of approval that you can put on your website and put on your badge. But for someone hiring a handyman, do your diligence. Do what you need to do to keep yourself safe. In today's climate, you just don't know.
Yeah. Ed, I got a question for you. So you've been doing this for a long time now. Any crazy or unique jobs that you've done over all these years that you'd like to share with us? Anything funny? We've got a few, but I'd like to hear from you.
Oh wow, there are a lot. I tell you, I touched on, I may have touched on turning down jobs. I'll just tell you, it's neither funny nor, it's more of a, hey, be careful for certain things. I had a longtime customer who in Florida, it gets really hot. I'm sure, in the summers it gets hot in Atlanta as well. But in Florida, if you don't turn your AC on, it's gonna not only is it gonna be hot, but it's not gonna smell very well when you have an aging dog living in your home. And so I, the first time, I got in there, I did some drywall work, and I had to open up all the windows. But when I got back into my truck, I was like, man, I can't get rid of this smell. It was it seeped into my pores. And so the next time I got called, and I says, well, and I had mentioned to him, look, yeah, you might want to do this, that, and the other, air the place out or whatever. I didn't tell the person it stunk or anything like that. But, and this is not a funny joke or anything like that story, but, the next time I got in there, and I was tearing up, and I had to step back and shut the door behind me because I just took 2 steps in, and I had to give him the talk. Hey, look, dude, yeah, it don't smell good, bro. So yeah, and and he actually thanked me because he was oblivious to the smell and whatnot. The next time I got there, man, it was rosy. It was potpourri here and there, and
yeah, he probably didn't understand why he couldn't get a date.
Yeah, but no,
use the air conditioner.
As far as funny stuff goes, it is what it is. There's a lot that I've had, especially as a home inspector.
Oh, I bet.
I couldn't tell. I would look under sinks. This happened on many occasions. I would look under a bathroom sink just to check the P-traps and make sure everything is not is up to code and up to snuff. And I couldn't tell whether this was electrical work or plumbing work because a lot of these folks were taking electrical tape and using electrical tape to, I don't know, seal up a leak and whatnot. I can tell you.
People get real creative.
They get creative, don't they? Yeah, John and I, we've seen. We feel your pain, man. We've been there. We've seen all that kind of stuff. I mean, it's just sometimes you just scratch your head. And today, and this today because of YouTube, it's like all you have to do is YouTube this, and you can pretty much figure it out. Especially something simple.
Yeah. Yeah. Have you ever smelled a Colgate wall? Colgate, the toothpaste. What folks would do when I would go in to inspect the house, they would fill the holes
with toothpaste.
Yeah, it was the wildest thing.
An old college trick. Yep.
I'm like, whoa.
Because spackle is so much more expensive than toothpaste.
Yeah, right. Well, exactly. And also masking tape, and you paint over the masking tape when there's a hole in the wall.
Yeah,
really.
That's a nice touch.
It's high quality work. Well, awesome. Well, Ed, we've enjoyed this interview. We'd love to get you. We're going to get you back on the show sometime in the future because this has just been very, very interesting. But how can people get a hold of you now?
Well, our website is handymanassociation.org. That's handymanassociation.org or AHCP.com. Like I said, we're a 501c6 not-for-profit association. We've been around since 2009, and we're looking for good handymen who want to be set apart and regulate themselves. And because let me tell you, if we don't regulate ourselves, someone will eventually, and we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to build a voice, and we're trying to do the right thing in the industry, if you want to call it an industry.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time. John, do you have anything else?
I don't, Ed. Thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Ed for being on the show. John, what are some of the key takeaways?
Yeah, that was a very interesting interview and enjoyable. Very nice fella. Some of the takeaways that I have, Larry, was I think the first one was why he started this whole organization. It's been contractor versus handyman and all those kind of things. And I think he when he was talking about it, bringing the credibility to handymen, the discipline and the credibility that goes along with this whole process that he has, and the code of ethics. Because what he was saying was that, this organization that he has created, really, he wants handyman type professionals, no fly by nights, as he put it in it. The professionals that are really in that job, to do that job, and to love it. So I think that was one of the takeaways that I had here.
Wait, John, aren't these people listening to the Handyman Pros radio show?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you and I think of ourselves as professionals, and all the things that we adhere to, all the points that he was bringing out. But I think in the past that he was saying that, when he first started out, how he was kind of getting what he termed as the hairy eyeball.
Yeah, I kind of like
so
that term.
When he said that, and he started this thing to help all the handymen get together and create a professional.
Yeah, that was the first one. What's the second one?
So the next one that I took away was really adding value to the customer. He kind of said, be a quote unquote home inspector yourself, and you and I both do that. So that we both like teaching the customer about other things that we see and helping out the customer. We might be, replacing an outdoor fixture, but you know what? There's a lot of other things that we might come across that we can bring to light for the customer that probably wouldn't know what was going on. So, as you know, it's easier to fix something before it really gets bad.
Yeah, we've discussed
before
that.
It's totally ruined. So,
right.
It's those kind of things about caring for people.
As we like to, at least I like to think, we look at things with a different lens, right? So we see things differently than somebody that lives there might see them. It's kind of one of those situations where, we see you. I know you and we've been on jobs. We're like, oh, do you see that? And you're like, you tell the customer, they're like, oh, I didn't even know that. So yeah, right. I thought that was a great point. I was very one of my big takeaways was that the handyman, while a handyman requires vetting, that handyman is also vetting you as a customer, right? So remember, folks, that this is a two-way street, right? We're trying to work. I know John and I, we both do this pretty extensively. We're trying to work with our customers and be their partner, not necessarily just their employee or slave or whatever you want to call it, but we want to have a working relationship with our customers. And I thought Ed made a really good point to bring that out, that don't, be aware that the handyman is vetting you as well. He's looking at you, and he's right. He's got a set of concerns out there that might not necessarily agree with what your particular values are. So I thought that was a really good takeaway for me.
Yeah, and I think that was a great takeaway. I'll just add that it goes along for contractors as well. They're going to be vetting you as well. So I think it's it's that relationship that you build with those type of people.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go ahead.
Well, any other ones? I was just going to say.
I was just okay. Yeah, I had one last one that I pulled from this conversation, and one that you and I both kind of abide by is that reciprocal relationships with contractors. So you and I both have relationships with professional licensed plumbers, as well as professional licensed electricians and some others, so that when we do get asked about some big comprehensive or complex installations or things like that, for instance, 10 or 15 pot lights in the ceiling, things like that, we're going to say, well, I've got a professional.
I got a guy.
Master electrician that'll be happy to work with you on that. And I think that's just knowing our limitations. It's not that we can't do it. We're not licensed to do those kind of things, but we know people that will.
Right.
And we become now a valuable resource for the homeowner because we have this network, and we've actually, speaking of vetting, we would vet these people out in our network. We've seen their work. We know how they work. We kind of go through the interview process ourselves.
Yeah,
so.
One of my favorites is painters, and we talked a little bit about this after the show, but I know I've been on many a job site, and I vet a painter by watching how well he prepares, and that's something that I won't recommend a painter unless I know he covers everything in the house and tapes stuff off that needs to be taped off. Too many of these guys come in and they just, they wing it and they split paint. Anyway, it's absolutely that reciprocal relationship.
So I think from my final wrap on that is that you become a valuable resource for the homeowner because you have this network. So when you do get asked, it's honestly, I don't do that, but I've got a guy. I got somebody to do that. So those are some things. I love the interview with Ed, and look forward to having him back on.
Oh, super good guy. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Handyman Pros Radio Show. As always, we'd like your feedback. Join us on our Facebook page at Handyman Pros, or sign up for our newsletter on our website, handymanprosradioshow.com, or send us an email, questions at handymanprosradioshow.com. And John, it was a dark night. It was a dark night last night, and I was outside, and I saw this thing flying. It came down. It started to land. That's was a spaceship, John.
The spaceship, baby.
Did it land? And did you were over here this morning, didn't we? What parts did we get off? We took that baby apart, didn't we?
Got the whole box of Snap-on tools.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this podcast and have derived some value from it, here's 4 things you can do. 1, tell your friends about this podcast. 2, hit subscribe on your podcast player. While you're there, leave us a review. 3, subscribe to our newsletter by going to handymanprosradioshow.com and click on the subscribe button. We'll inform you of upcoming events, shows, and give you actionable tips for maintaining your home and property. And 4, send us an email with your questions to questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. That's handymanprosradioshow.com. That's our show for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.